Hey everybody. So, I was asked a few weeks ago, it's been a while, to do a video about long distance relationships and maybe give some tips and advice. I'm the perfect person to ask for that because I've been in two. The one I'm in now is my second one. The first one was not that great and this one is fantastic. So, I've kind of learned what to do and what not to do. So I guess the very first thing I want to talk about happens before the relationship. And so my number one most important rule is do not let yourself be catfished. Take care of yourself and make sure that the person that you're getting into a relationship with is who they say they are. I have seen every single episode of Catfish ever made because I'm obsessed with it. And it amazes me the crap that people come up with to hide their identity on the internet. It's pretty insane. So if you're talking to somebody and thinking about taking it further and possibly getting in a relationship with them, you need to first make sure that they are who they say they are. I did that right away with Shane, and he was the exact same way. We Skyped within a week of first talking to each other. We Skyped before we decided to get in a relationship, just so we knew that it was the person that they were saying they were. So that's really important. And people are sneaky. One suggestion I've heard is to have the person send you a picture of them holding up a piece of paper with your name on it, which is great. That's a great idea. But I saw an episode of Catfish where the girl was stealing pictures from someone who is kind of famous, but not famous enough that everyone would, know that wasn't you. So she emailed the person that she was stealing the pictures from and said, "My niece is a really big fan of yours. Will you take a picture of yourself holding up a piece of paper with her name on it?" And that's how she was able to fool the other person. It's just crazy what people are willing to do. So don't let yourself get into something like that because that's really devastating. I mean, I've seen these people in serious relationships, they're serious, it's their real feelings, and come to find out they're talking to someone who isn't telling the truth. So I mean, it's devastating. So don't let yourself get into that. Be safe. If you are talking to someone who's not willing to Skype with you, that's a big red flag. And honestly, I wouldn't pursue anything with someone who would not Skype with me, because that's huge. So be really careful about that. So now, if you've verified who they are and they seem like a good person, I usually check their Facebook and see how many friends they have and if they're tagged and stuff, and if people that are writing on their walls saying things about them, just to kind of double check it. So once you get into the relationship, I would say the number one most important thing in the relationship is communication. Definitely. And that's for any relationship, I'd say, but it's even more so for a long distance relationship. Because communication is all you have. Talking on Skype, face-to-face communication, and texting or messaging each other, writing each other letters, that's the only communication you have. And a huge part of communication is nonverbal. Posture and tone of voice, stuff like that. And that's really hard when you're in a long distance relationship. So you really need to communicate as often as you can. I wouldn't say that for an in-person relationship, since you're actually seeing each other. I don't think it's necessary to, talk 24/7. But in a long distance relationship, really, really, really important to talk as often as you can. It's really hard for me and Shane because he's 15 and a half hours ahead of me. So our time is a little weird. I've kind of redone my sleep schedule so that I'm pretty much on Australia time. I go to bed pretty late, wake up pretty late when I can, just because it is so important to me to talk to him. It keeps our relationship going, for sure. You don't have to go to that extent, obviously, but it is important to talk to them. And make sure that you're part of their lives, like, know what they're doing, know what's going on, how they're feeling, what they've been doing with themselves, what they're doing with their life. That's so important, just to be involved with them. Like, I could talk for hours about how important communication is. Like, it's huge, especially when things aren't so great. Shane and I are very good to each other, I'd say 97.5% of the time. We're very affectionate, and we're very nice, and we're kind, and we're understanding of what the other person is saying. But there are times when we get in arguments or disagreements that kind of turn sour. And that's really hard when you're long distance, because you're literally just having to talk it out. There's no, like, make up sex or anything like that. You just have to talk about it, and it sucks. Especially when you're angry, or you're upset, or you're hurt. And it's so important to be open and trusting and honest in times like that, which is something I've had to learn the hard way. My first problem is that I have a huge anger problem, which I've been trying to work on, but I haven't been too successful. I get very angry and very mean, very cold and bitter, and I get nasty. And I've shown that side of me to Shane a few times. And when I'm like that, I get very passive aggressive. I can be in your face aggressive, and a lot of the time I am, with people that I don't like or don't know that are saying things that I don't like. I can get very aggressive. But when it's somebody that I love, like Shane, I don't want to be up front, in your face, screaming profanities at you aggressive. Because that's just, I care too much about him to do that. But I am passive aggressive, meaning that I kind of shut down, and I say things without, I'm very sarcastic. Like, I say things like I don't mean them. Like, he'll say something to me, and literally all I'll say is, okay. Like, that's it. And that's not being open and honest. That's not using good, open, honest communication. In our last argument like that, he was great about it. I'm trying to remember exactly what he said. Something like, babe, we're not going to make it if we can't communicate with each other open and honestly. And that got through to me. I was like, okay, I'm sorry. So I'm working on it. I'm working on being open and honest with him as I can, even when I'm not very happy. So that's very important. Another thing I've found that is really helping our relationship, and crap, I was going to bring something down with me, is sending each other things, like gifts or letters or just something little like that. It doesn't have to be huge, but we've sent each other a few letters and little things here and there. He sent me a letter like right when he got to Australia, which was really sweet. And then soon after that, he sent me a postcard with a koala bear on it, because I remind him of koala bears, especially when I'm trying to be sexy, which is disappointing. These koala bears are cute, but whatever. It was very sweet. I loved it. And then just recently, he sent me an old t-shirt of his that he'd worn for a few days. And it's my favorite thing in the world. It smells so good. Just like, scent is a big thing for me. Knowing how people smell, and I'm very easily affected by smells. So, holding it and smelling it, it just makes me feel, it's very comforting. It helps me sleep. It makes me feel a lot closer to him. So it's perfect. Like, I love it. And I just barely sent out one of my t-shirts yesterday, along with a bottle of my body spray, because that's how I how I smell most of the time. And also my chapstick. He asked for that, which I understand. I mean, I've been using it for like a month, so. To other people, that would probably sound creepy, but if you're in a long-distance relationship, you understand how important stuff like that is. Like, you really, people in face-to-face relationships really take things for granted, and it upsets me a little, but whatever. Trying to think of what else to talk about, because those are really huge ones that have helped me in my relationship. Trying to think of what went wrong in my first long-distance relationship. But with that one, it really all comes back to communication. We were really bad at communicating with each other when it comes to negative things. I mean, we were pretty good at good things, but we were really bad at saying when we were feeling something not so good. The last month of our relationship, all we did was fight. But nothing ever got resolved, because it was just arguing until someone got so upset that they stopped talking to the other person, and then it just didn't get resolved. So I think that in the end, that's what ended it. And also, we just weren't on the same page. So I guess that's a really important one. Make sure you're on the same page as the other person that you're in a relationship with. Make sure you want the same things, because that was not the case with my last relationship. We wanted completely different things from each other. We wanted completely different things out of life. And there was just no way for us to, like, fit together in each other's different lives. And I think that's what ended us in the end. I mean, we just couldn't, we weren't what each other needed, I guess. So I talked about that pretty early in my relationship with Shane. We talked about what we want out of life, and we're extremely compatible when it comes to what kind of life we want. We just want a good, steady jobs that can support us, a cute little house. Doesn't have to be huge, but we want a big yard because we want dogs. I want 5 dogs, but he only wants like 3 dogs. So I think we should compromise at 4, but he's kind of stuck on 3, but I'll change his mind. We want to get married eventually. We feel the same when it comes to, like, having kids. We don't want them right now, but are open to change in the future, so we'll see about that. And I'm not saying that you have to discuss things like that, like the very first week of your relationship. Like, alright, how do you feel about marriage? How do you feel about kids? Because that can scare someone away. But if you're serious with the other person, then those are important things to discuss, so that you know you're on the same page, so you don't end up hurting in the end when you want completely different things out of life. So I'd say really the only thing that me and Shane are kind of on the fence about is where we're going to live in the future, because his home is in the UK and mine is in America, in Utah. So, I mean, we'll figure it out. I'm not worried, but other than that, we're extremely compatible, and we know what kind of life we want, and that's nice. That's comforting for me, knowing that I'm with someone who can see a future with me and wants the same things that I want, and that's awesome. That's awesome. I guess another tip I have is be prepared for backlash from, like, families and friends. People aren't usually on board with being in a relationship with somebody that you've never met, which I really do understand, because my little sister was in a long distance relationship before I ever was, and it was hard for me to try to understand. In the end, I did. I ended up really liking her girlfriend, but I mean, they've broken up since. And now my sister is very about me being in long distance relationships, because she knows how hard it is. And she was right with the last relationship, but she seemed a little more accepting of this one, which I think is a good sign. My parents have also had a hard time with it, And it's not like they're mean about it. You can just tell that it's not how they would act if Shane was here with me physically. Which is, I guess, it's understandable. My friends have actually been pretty supportive, so that's been nice. My coworkers, I'm not like extremely close with my coworkers, so it's not like, it doesn't really matter to me. But just prepare for people to be unsupportive. I mean, it's most likely gonna happen with at least somebody in your life. Because I think people have a hard time understanding how you can really feel like you know somebody if you've never met them in person. But I feel like I know Shane. We've talked face to face on Skype many times. He tells me pretty much everything about himself. And I do the same with him. And he knows me better than most of the people that I see on a daily basis in my life. It's actually kind of freaky. He knows me so well that he knows when I'm upset. He knows when I'm crying, which is really weird. Like, I'll start crying and he'll message me and be like, "Are you okay?" How do you know? So, be prepared for backlash, but don't let it get you down. Like, it's your relationship. Feel what you feel and don't apologize for it, because they're your feelings and you're allowed to have them. No one has the right to tell you that you're wrong for feeling what you're feeling. So just remember that if things do get really hard with people being unsupportive. I know that support is important. It's really important to me because my family means the world to me. My family supporting my relationship is very important to me. And at the same time, I'm not going to let it get in the way of my happiness, because I love Shane very much. And that he makes me happy. So that's the first thing that I'm going to take into consideration. Like, I come first in my feelings of my relationship, if that makes sense. So just stay strong, lean on each other for support. So I'm guessing if you're experiencing backlash, so is your partner. So you have each other, at least, which is nice. It's nice to just have somebody who understands what you're going through, because they're going through the same thing. So just a little tip that I found that's been really helpful. Plan for meeting each other. And I'm not saying know the exact day and time and how it's going to all work out. You don't have to work out all the details. Even if it's just a tentative, okay, I think we could probably work out meeting sometime in this month, this year, or whatever. Doing that just gives you something to look forward to. Shane and I have kind of bounced back and forth on the days that we're going to meet each other. First it was January, and then it went back to, actually first it was July, and then it went to January, and then it went to June. Now it's kind of hovering like either December or June, like it's one of those. But just knowing that it is going to happen and that there's a time in the future when it's completely possible for it to happen makes me feel so much better, because I have something to look forward to, I don't think I'd be able to be in a long-distance relationship where the other person wasn't actively trying to meet me, because I don't want this to be long-distance forever. Definitely not. This is going to be a in-person relationship, like, as soon as it can be. Because I don't know how anyone could stay in a long-distance relationship and just keep it at that. Touch and being with somebody is so important, and it's something that I definitely need in my life. So do that if at all possible. Give yourself a tentative date for meeting. And even do a countdown if that makes you feel better. I know that both me and Shane have countdowns going on our phone for the date that we have right now, which may or may not change. Who knows? We'll change it accordingly. And that's helpful. That helps a lot. Like, I only have to do this for this and this amount more days, and then I get to be with them. So that's helpful. So what else? That's really all I can think of right now. I think those are the main things that I have learned from my relationships. I don't really think actively looking for an online, like, long distance relationship is the best route to go. It was easier for me to find somebody online because I'm extremely introverted and I don't like being around people and I don't like talking to people. It makes me very uncomfortable. So getting to know someone online is so much easier for me. And I think that's kind of why I fell into the whole online long distance relationship thing. But I would have preferred to meet somebody the traditional way, you know, face to face. That'd be easier. I'm not at all saying that I, you know, regret getting in a relationship with Shane, because I don't. Like, I love him so much. He's my soulmate. But don't go actively seeking for a relationship like this, because it's not ideal, I guess, is the right word for it. If you feel comfortable being around people and being in relationships with people in, like, actual life, face to face, go that way. Do that. Don't do this. This is, like I've said, not an ideal relationship. But at the same time, I love every second of it. I love every second that I'm talking to him, every second that I'm Skyping with him, looking at him, hearing his voice. It's a good relationship, but it's hard. Because there are times when I just want to hug him and cuddle him and kiss him, and I can't, and I know that I can't for a few more months, which sucks. So just keep that in mind if you're thinking of getting him into a long distance relationship. I really think that unless you feel like it could really go places, I wouldn't do it. If you feel like it's just kind of like well, it'd be nice to have somebody, stay away from it. I think the only reason I got into a long distance relationship again is because I could see myself being with Shane for a long time, possibly forever. That was really my only reason. So keep that in mind. I hope this helped somebody. I hope. But if you do have any more, like, specific questions, you can always come to my Tumblr, which I'm going to post down there. Just know, if you are in a long distance relationship, that you are not alone. I'm here to talk if you'd like. I know that Shane would be willing to talk if you'd like. I know it's hard, but if you love each other, you know, you'll get through it. Love is the only kind of magic that I believe in. I think that it can transform people. I think it can save people. I think it can get you through almost anything. So if you're truly in love, just hang on. You'll make it through. So yeah, that's it. Bye, guys.